Alright, after that brief little intro, you should be pretty calm and relaxed. This little video is because I left my equipment back at home, but I still know that you need to get some information. Just to get you caught up, you should be done reading through chapter 20 of your ecology book. I think on the last discussion I threw in together everything from succession to landscape ecology to pretty much everything. I don't even know if my head's in the frame set, but I'm not going to re-record this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to talk ecology while I'm at the beach, because that's what I do. Here we have a lot of physiological forces taking place. First, right here at this particular spot, you notice the way the waves look is because it gets shallow very quickly, which means that all the energy comes in. Further on down the beach, it's more gently sloped and the waves don't come in as hard. I'm going to head down this way and we'll talk about some more stuff in just a second. Alright, I think my batteries are dying, so I'm going to have to do this fairly quickly. Let's just talk about a couple of things that are different between our Atlantic beaches and our Gulf Coast beaches. Now, obviously, that stuff out there is different because you've got different currents going on, which leads to different amounts of nutrients, different temperatures, different biodiversity. But remember, I mentioned that sand. Let's focus on this intertidal zone from the bottom of the, well, I guess the bottom of the beach to the top of the beach, I guess would be what it's called. Here in Destin, I have noticed that the tide has not moved more than 5 feet. That's the entire tidal range. Tidal range is very important to some organisms. In parts of South Carolina, I can think of Harbor Island, for example, the tide goes out quite a bit. Lengthwise, it's probably 100 feet or so. The Bay of Fundy, I think, has the largest tidal change, and it's 50 feet in depth, which translates into a very long 1.5 miles or quarter mile. So that little gap right there, I haven't seen any crabs. No blue crabs, no fiddler crabs, no ghost crabs. Well, I take that back. I've seen a couple of ghost crab holes. But I also haven't gotten back into the dune ecosystem. Then this berm right here, I got a boo-boo on my finger. This berm right here is different based on wind, because the sand here is a lot finer, more finer. I don't know what the proper term for that is. It's not as coarse as our sand, which means that it's going to blow more readily. And then we've got different plant makeups here, and I want you to look at the distance. I found some maritime forest for you. It took some searching, but you know, you guys are totally worth it. And you see, oh, this is amazing, at the far end back there, right, can I point with it? Right there. You see that the sand dune is pushing up against the maritime forest. And there's a dynamic ecosystem going on here based on wind, based on tide, and that sand dune may push into the maritime forest for a while, and then it may actually overpower that maritime forest, go over it, and so underneath these dunes right here we might find some of the pine trees. Now back home we're going to have longleaf and some various species. Here we're going to have slash pine. Home we're going to have a whole lot of sable palmetto, our state tree. I have not seen any of those in our maritime forest down here in Florida. Not a whole lot of hardwood. You see that the hardwoods, you've got some skeletons. What am I looking at? Okay, yeah. It's kind of hard to tell with the sun behind me in my sunglasses. Those skeletons that you see out there are maybe some of the old pines. There may be a couple of hardwoods. I see over there one hardwood sticking up above the pines. Very difficult ecosystem for them because of all the salt air. But succession, what does this have to do with succession? Has everything to do with succession. Dynamic ecosystem, bam, right there. Sand's going back, maritime forest is pushing up against it. Okay, I see this big mound right here has Spanish bayonet yucca. No, that's Fozzie Bear. The yucca, right, find it with the finger right there, yucca. That yucca right there doesn't belong this far out on the dunes. Probably the dunes pushed back that way, and at one time the maritime forest was up here. So succession's very important. Dynamic ecosystems are always changing, and you know, one thing that always changes dynamic ecosystems: people. Here we've got hotels built up around what's left of a dynamic ecosystem, and yeah, they're beautiful, and they attract a lot of attention, and people come in, and Florida gets a lot of money for tourism, as evidenced by the fact that I'm here for a conference. But what kind of effect does that have on the ecosystem? Well, that does not allow for these dunes to move. The dunes have to move. Now, how about in South Carolina? We've got pretty strong longshore current, so we've got sand getting deposited this way. There's not a whole lot of longshore current here, I don't think, because everything that seems to be not being as deposited as much. I could be wrong on that. All right, so final conclusion. Dynamic ecosystems, read through chapter 20, succession, and what does that have to do with the frequency of disturbance, whether it's fire or hurricane or people. And isn't ecology fun? I love this stuff. Hope you're having a great week. Hope you continue to have a great week. Give me a call or email me if you need me. That's all I got. I found this here on the beach. You see it's sargassum. This is not where sargassum grows. Sargassum grows way out there. So how did it get here? Well, it got blown up in a storm or rooted up. We got all sorts of air pockets here, and that's what helps it float. And that's really important ecosystem out there. But it's also important for nutrients up here. I have now walked about 10,000 miles to get to a point where I can show you guys some of this ecosystem. You're welcome. That's how much I love you guys and appreciate you. Alright, so we're talking about succession, and this is very important when you talk about sand dune ecosystems. If you can read along with me, it says, stay off the dunes, beach dune restoration in progress, and you see the restoration in progress. And I don't know how well you can gauge the size of those, but those particular sand dunes are probably 10 to 15 feet above where I'm standing. And you see we've got distinctive classes of sand dunes. We've got the seagrass down here, and we've got some of the sea oats, and then the species composition changes as you go to the top. But what I want you to read is this part right here. It says, intact dunes protect us from storms, keep our beaches healthy, and provide habitat for rare wildlife. You knew all that stuff. Although dune plants can tolerate harsh beach conditions, that is wind coming off from there to right there, salty wind, the sun is out, very bright, it's generally hot, sandy conditions. Look at my lovely feet. The sand here is a little bit less coarse than our sand, but it's about the same. So the conditions are harsh, yes, but they can't withstand the pounding of feet. Now if a hurricane comes, it's coming from that way, most likely. And when it comes, there's going to be storm surge, and this entire area that we're looking at right here is going to be washed, and then this is going to act as a buffer. Now if the storm is strong enough, then this sand dune ecosystem is going to get washed away. But it's not going to get washed away along the entire length of the sand dune. What's going to happen is maybe that spot, let's see if I can find it in my viewfinder. I'm guessing that spot right there is, I missed it. Yeah, right? Focus. That spot right there looks like a relatively weak spot in terms of slope, because the beach slopes down that direction. So that part might break through, but on either side it would remain intact. Now how often do hurricanes come along? Well, we'll talk about that later, but the last time a major hurricane hit South Carolina was in 1989, and that's been a while ago. But storms are pretty rough stuff, and they come fairly often. But they come often not so often that the dunes don't have time to readjust. Now behind those dunes, you can't see them, but behind those dunes are houses. Blech. But normally behind those dunes are going to be a maritime forest, for example. Now, that storm surge might knock out the dunes, but the maritime forest would observe it, and that's actually protecting the maritime forest on the backside too. So given enough time, provided the storms are infrequent, you're going to have a chance for the ecosystem to re-nourish itself, to get better, to heal. But the constant wear and tear of people walking across that, and you know, people would walk out right there and drag sand in there, and of course as they're walking they're stepping on plants, and that's killing plants, compacting soil, causing erosion, and they just can't handle that frequent daily erosion the same way that they could handle an infrequent storm. So moral of the story is that the feet of a billion people are more powerful than a hurricane. That's really quite profound. That should be put on a t-shirt or something. It put me up there with quotes from Mahatma Gandhi. Alright, I know I told you that was my last thought for the day, but then I had another thought. And it relates to something earlier on in the chapter. This morning when I was running on the beach, there was nobody there at, say, 5:30 or 6 in the morning. But now you look at it and the beach is full, and you got people playing games and all sorts of stuff like that. We got a couple of things going on here. We've got competition for space. That could be scramble competition, or it may be interspecies competition, or sorry, intraspecies competition. Unless a shark comes through, then it's interspecies competition. You've got some intraspecies competition going on. And then you've got a whole lot of females wearing bikinis that accentuate their rounded hips, which are good for birthing babies, and their breasts, which are good for feeding babies. And you've got a lot of young males demonstrating their physique to demonstrate how strong they are, how healthy they are, and you got them checking each other out, going for the hookup, if you will. So yeah, there's a whole lot of competition going on there. Competition is very important. The other thing was, when I was down there eating lunch earlier today, I ran across some chipping sparrows. And the chipping sparrows were, oh, there goes one right now, two. They're very bold. They're very brave. Now, that could be an evolutionary topic, because if you've got a couple of individuals who are very brave, and that can be linked to something genetically, then those are the ones that are going to get the food in this area that's fairly devoid of food for chipping sparrows. And the shy ones are not going to get anything to eat. Whereas if you have another situation where the curious, forward-thinking sparrows get killed or eaten, then the shy ones are going to be the ones that survive. So there you go. Directional selection. In this case, for curiosity. Okay, that's it this time for real. Okay, bye.